Hello horror hereticals, it's time for Asian Trips feature when KK will do review of 3 horror offerings from Asia, from the past to the present. This time round, we will go through the trilogy of Death Whisperer or T-Yok, an adaptation of a popular web story from 2015 by Krittanon, who claimed the story happened in his mother village during her youth. Directed by Taweewat Wantha, with a screenplay from Sorarat Jira Bovonwisut and Tamanand Chulaborirak. We were introduced to the movie with a prologue, with parents of a teenager by the name of Nut rushing home to find their daughter in excruciating pain with an abdomen bloating and inflating uncontrollably. Before they could offer any help, blood started gushing out from all orifices, and Nut was subdued to the mysterious hemorrhage. It had been a while since the sudden spine-chilling death of Nut, affecting the people of the village of Dan Makam Thai. Sisters Yat, Yam and Yi were going through their daily routine when the youngest Yi spotted a scary apparition looming by the large ficus tree with those hanging roots. Elder sister Yat would unearth some creepy drawings under the desk of the departed Nut in school. Things did not stop there, as the sister would see a crazy-eyed, black-gummed elderly lady targeting them when they were enjoying their Ferris wheel ride in the carnival. The old lady was a reclusive witch doctor by the name of Chui, and she had been targeting young ladies as sacrifice for an evil entity who we later know would be seeking for the ideal host. We were unsure what rewards Chui would reap from her heinous summoning rituals. Middle sister Yam was perennially sickly, and one day Chui would sneak into the household in broad daylight and commit a macabre with a tooth extraction from poor Yam. Debilitated by her illness, Yam was helpless to fight off Chui and would be chosen to be the host for the entity to the distraught of her family. The family was ruled by a stern patriarch who cared too much for his farmland and not the most affectionate father figure. The girls had 3 elder brothers, with Yak, the oldest, who was discharged from the military with unknown reason, returning home and was treated as persona non grata by their disciplinarian father, and their second brother Yot. Audiences would soon realize that Yak, who oozes charisma the moment he entered the scene, was the hero persona for this horror franchise. As the title implied, the evil entity baiting on Yam possessed the ability to comatose people with whispers, and taking reference from movies like Nightmare on Elm Street, we will see characters fighting hard to be freed from the hypnotizing whispers with tactics like burning or biting themselves. Yak and his brothers would attempt to fight off the advancement of the entity to claim Yam as the host, but it was just the beginning of the family's nightmares. The first installment of The Death Whisperer bear the essence of a classic Thai folk horror that drove a successful Thai horror era. Without going into detail with the evil entity, seeing a lady ghost with a sinister smile looming among the hanging vines was effortless to elicit fear in me. The part with one of the farm workers, determined to quit because of the fear of the unknown, helped amplify the anxieties. The disturbing sights and sounds of Chui's rituals and horrendous findings after the sacred bamboo grove was chopped down added to the lore that I had not seen previously. The serial haunting for a family also drove the story, with each sibling playing their part, even more so than their parents. The unconditional love and protection for their sisters, be it from natural or supernatural threat, made us root for the brothers seamlessly. The threats kept escalating when the religious help they saw was inadequate to contain it, and eventually it was down to the gumption and faith of our characters. The possessions and body horrors in such a decrepit setting, as well as seeing Yak in a white top and denim jeans fighting ghostly figures with bare hands or with artillery, it felt like director Taweewat had watched a definitive classic horror in Sam Raimi's Evil Dead, a movie he had confessed he had drew inspiration from. More about that in Death Whisperer 2. With the heightened brutality from the malevolent entity and our characters possessing little room for error, it was easy to be on the edge of the seat for the crucial part of the movie. That said, the movie was not without its flaws. The storytelling can be all over the place, and it really did not give a probable reason for why Chui did what she did, and why Yam was the perfect host, and why was there the need for the ghostly minions when the entity was powerful enough. It was also confusing to differentiate one thing from another in this film series. The bamboo grove they chopped down and the old ficus tree where Yi first spotted the entity were too close to be differentiated. Even that ghostly apparition that Yi saw, I could not be sure it was the ghost of Nerd or was it the evil entity herself. The part with Cui extracting Yam's tooth looked awfully incredulous, with the whole hand stuck inside the small mouth, and they had the audacity to repeat this part in later movie. Model actor Nabek Kugimiya played Yak, who at this juncture was a caring brother and was rebelling against the draconian system his father was setting. This heartthrob will surely bring the ladies to the movies, and it was hard to hate on him as a guy as well. The same sentiments cannot be shared for later sequels. One interesting plot point I picked up from the movie was that it seems that this family was of Chinese descent. I think they might be under the Teochew dialect group, from the way Yi and Yam addressed their sister Yat. The kitchen god altar was also a clue into their genetic identification. Death Whisperer from 2023 was a financial success, and I could see how audiences were receptive to the scary reveals in the story. It is a 7 out of 10 with a strong start. Death Whisperer 2 premiered a year later with a prologue with Yak and Such assisting in the exorcism of a man being possessed. For Yak, who looked more and more like Ash in the Army of Darkness, quirky and testosterone-fueled, he wanted to locate the evil entity who bestowed the family tragedy we had seen in the first movie. He felt like these evil demonic entities had a WhatsApp group chat to share their latest victims and their most up-to-date whereabouts. Together with his old companion Such, who we thought was killed, yet was given a convenient explanation how he survived. Yak will have his loyal sidekick for his adventures as we pivot away from the family for most of this movie. The sequel began with a war in the 1800s when a soldier by the name of Puang wanted to survive with his fellow troop only to be ambushed. In the closing minutes of his mortality, the evil entity we have grown chummy with appeared and gave him an opportunity to make a deal with the devil. Puang obliged, and his enemies would slowly kill off each other. He would harbor this entity to his ripe old age, and people in his village would know about his goal, which led to some generational family curse. The descendant of the curse wanted to banish this evil once and for all, therefore offering financial and logistic help to Yak and Such on their journey to a creepy forest where Puang was reported to be living in. It was an arduous journey for Yak and his team, as there were supernatural beings like Werecat that posed more dangers to them. Meanwhile, back in the family, 3 years after the events from the first movie, Yat, the elder sister, was getting married. I could swear she was at most graduating from high school in the first movie, therefore she was getting married as a teenager. With Yak seeking revenge on the behest of the family, they did not realize the evil entity was waiting for the opportunity to come looking for the new host. Death Whisperer 2 had a conventional 3-act structure. It started with a solid prologue, with Puang's encounter with the evil manifestation, as well as Yak and Such rampant journey in search of the entity with bitter vendetta. Meanwhile, some well-needed bliss for the family with the impending wedding ceremony. An action-filled second act in the treacherous jungle of Dong Kamo. We have a classic sitting off of members from our protagonist's party, and the evil masquerading to pull a fast one over them. There were some intriguing visuals with the Werecat, as well as the creepy looking Puang, who delivered us a nice twist to the story. The culmination to the climatic showdown when we switched the setting to the hotel where the wedding preparations were taking place. It was a playground big enough to put the family through a lot of physical and mental turmoil, as no one was spared with the whispering and possession in full effect from the entity who until now was not given a name other than Puang's goal. The ridiculous stick of the hand into the mouth happened during this protracted sequence. Puang provided a deus ex machina for our otherwise helpless heroes against a power-up antagonist. The absurdity of going toe-to-toe with an ancient evil without any divine intervention could be hard to sit through, but at that point, you just want to root for Yak and his siblings to end it once and for all. Actor Kugimiya had thoroughly transformed into an anime character and was less and less believable flash-out character for me. The same production team was on board, with the exception of writer Palapong Pompat was helping out with the screenplay. The action set pieces were more intricately created, but the scare factors was much diluted for this second part. It certainly felt like Death Whisperer was always designed to be a two-parter to tell the story of the family against the ancient evil, and it was likely the story had veered off significantly from Kittanon's source material. That final blow from Yak was satisfying, and the group embrace should mark the finale as the audiences flooded into the cinema to catch it, breaking in another monumental box office taking and even garnered stellar critical reviews. Personally, I've penchant for the folk horror elements from part 1, though I like the Huang story arc and the hotel showdown. Therefore, I will reward a 7 out of 10 for Death Whisperer 2. There was this term in the entertainment industry called jump the shark, which entailed the fact that a creative work or entity has evolved and reached a point in which it has exhausted its core intent and is introducing new ideas that are discordant with or an extreme exaggeration of its original theme or purpose. Death Whisperer 3 was a classic case of jumping the shark, as the success of the first 2 movies drove the producers to hit the iron when it is hot. As mentioned, it was blatant Death Whisperer was always meant to be a 2-parter released on subsequent years. The second sequel was delivered with another prologue as we finally get the background story of the ancient entity. She was a bereaved Burmese mother, losing an infant during an escape from the British Army in the early 1800s. Her rage transformed her into a malevolent entity who would deliver unadulterated harm to anyone she set her sights on until she had been sealed by a powerful monk. During the merciless invasion by the Japanese Imperial Army in World War II, local villagers were forced into slavery to build the infamous Death Railway. To retaliate against their captors, a village elder Mawe would awaken the entity now known as Dayu, but the plan backfired. Dayu would kill many villagers and set curses on the survivors, who would serve on her beck and call. This led us back to the family from Dan Makam Thai, and this time Dayu would set her sight on the youngest Yi and would adopt her in school. By this point, another few years had passed. Since the events of Death Whisperer 2, the family thought the storm had passed, with Dayu being banished finally. Yat was in her 3rd trimester for her first pregnancy, and Yak was contemplating rejoining the army until the tragic news of Yi's adoption. In the classic Ouija board subplot, Yam's spirit was summoned to help her siblings to locate Yi. They would have to make their way to a perilous forest, which the screenwriter derived from an online radio program which stated to gather spirits according to the local people. Yak and such were determined to save Yi and find out the truth behind the reappearance of Dayu, and this time around, his brothers Yot and Yos would sneak into their jeep and ensure their older brother would not get all of the adoration. As the quartet precariously maneuvered through the dreadful jungle terrain, we the audience caught glimpses of how Yi was trying to survive with a wrinkled prune known as Mawe, and other scary entities would send our young damsel into full distress. If Death Whisperer 2 was Army of Darkness with Yak when close of replacing a shotgun with his arm, Part 3 felt like a Thai version of Uncharted, the popular game series from Naughty Dogs, which gave us a fun Indiana Jones treasure hunting wild ride. Yak and company would get help from a couple of local indigenous villagers and had to fight off water spirits and even cave-dwelling zombies before facing the final boss Dayu, with her smattering of minions like Mawe and other ghostly figures. By this point, things got heavily convoluted, to a point my interest had watered down tremendously. Yat had also been abducted, and her unborn baby was the ultimate incarnation Dayu wanted, yet Yi was supposed to be the host, the replacement for the deceased Yam. Dayu also wanted to end the lineage of Yak's family. This entity was awfully busy. For the longest time, younger version of Mawe looked like Chui from the original Death Whisperer, and the 2 contortionist entities felt surplus to requirement if you wanted your attention to be focused on Dayu herself. We then learned that all these indigenous people were not what they're supposed to be. Oh god. We had the final sob session with one beloved character uttering a name that we had not heard of until that very moment, and guess what? That would be a lead-in to another probable sequel. Wikipedia provided a lot of production notes with regards to Death Whisperer 3. The success of the earlier films created a demand for the movie with rights of the sequel from European and ASEAN market. Director Taweewat Wantha, as we discussed previously in Asian Trips episode 11, departed the project to make Attack 13 and Tare the Exorcist in 2025. Producer of the film franchise, Narit Yuvabun, and second unit director, Tanadel Pradit, the co-directing chair, I do not have the efficacy to spot the differences in the filmmaking. However, there was the major swerve from the strong emphasis on horror to the action-adventure in this movie, which to be honest was not shoddily done, but it was not what I was looking for in these movies. I had also read that actor Nadek Kugimiya had a lot of say with Yak's character development and even suggested to put the brothers into the adventure. Yet, in the end, the spotlight was still on him while the brothers faltered at every turn of the corner. It also made sense of the extended topless scene when Yak was immobilized. There was that very dramatic scene between Yak and Dayu, which many audiences like myself hope would be the end of this endless tussle. But if the franchise continues, you just know what direction it is going. The drastic drop in box office takings domestically reflected the lack of enthusiasm for this sequel, and for me, this was certainly unnecessary and once again jumped the shark. The rating will be a 6 out of 10. The Death Whisperer trilogy is now streaming on Netflix, so catch it before the movies are gone, and share in the comments on how you feel about these Thai horror flicks. Please drop me a like and share this review if you can. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. I had done a review for another 3 movies previously with Christopher Gunn's Return to Silent Hill, Natasha Kermani's The Dreadful, and Diabolic from Daniel J. Phillips. If I was one of the siblings from that big family, I would leave and go far away. The classic nope out of there.